Hi, I'm Dr. David Clairbout with Thestatvantage.com. I am here to talk with you, dear folks, about something that's been very, very important to me, and that is I love high school basketball. I coached high school basketball, but I always wondered, how could we make high school basketball coaching less difficult? How could we make the wins easier to get? There's got to be a way of doing this, and right now there doesn't seem to be a way of doing it. So we thought about this very carefully, and we developed what we call Thestatvantage.com for high school basketball coaches. It's a marvelous little instrument that can change how you coach. Now let me give you the background on it real quickly. We call it the DNA of high school basketball. Why do we call it DNA? We call it DNA because it is scientific. You see, you can go to conferences, you can read books, you can go online, you can subscribe to blogs, and all of those almost always are based mainly in theory. One coaches this kind of offense, a dribble drive offense. Somebody tries a triangle in high school. Somebody goes 1-3-1 on defense, but it's almost always theory. And you're never really sure, is this going to lead me to winning? And that just makes coaching more difficult. So here's what we did. We took 500 high schools around the country, 500, okay? And we made sure we had very successful high schools as well as some not so successful high schools. So out of those 500 high school teams, the record was the same number of wins as losses. You had a 500 winning percentage among 500 teams from all over the country. It is as representative as we possibly could get to get an idea of what really counts in high school basketball. So here's what we did. We took all the known statistics: three-point shooting, two-point shooting, assists, rebounds, offensive rebounds, steals, almost every conceivable category. And we tried to correlate them very carefully with what wins. So we took the winning percentages and connected them with the numbers in each one of those areas. And out of that comes Thestatvantage, the DNA of high school basketball. It will show you what will win and what will not win in high school. And the beautiful thing is, if you understand the difference between a zone and a man-to-man defense, you'll understand our numbers. I know a lot of coaches they're not number oriented. They didn't get math majors. They don't do algebra. We know that. I didn't like algebra. But if you can understand the difference between a man defense and a zone defense, or read a speed limit sign in the highway, you can understand our numbers. I have broken those numbers down that tightly. So there's no doubt at all that you can understand this. Now, what you're going to find out in Thestatvantage is what aspects of the game you need to emphasize. At Thestatvantage.com, that book is available right now. And you could read it now and you could still save the back end of your season. You will probably be amazed, as I was amazed when I discovered how important certain things are in high school basketball that most people don't think are very important. And how unimportant some things are in high school basketball that people think are terribly important. Let me give you an example. If you sit down with maybe 4 or 5 coaches, I can promise you, when they talk about what it takes to win, rebounding is going to come up real early. But when we studied those numbers of 500 schools, tens of thousands of games, guess what? Rebounding was only moderately important. Far less important, for example, than ball handling. Now, why in the world would that be? Here's why. Unless you have a couple of, red oaks underneath the basket and you're dominating the boards for 32 minutes. So many rebounds are random. It's the way the ball bounces off the rim. Oftentimes what looks like a rebound winds up to be a loose ball. And as a consequence of the loose ball, somebody is able to have has a chance to get a possession. More important than rebounding by far is steals. Because see, if you get a rebound, it doesn't mean you're going to score. It means you stop somebody else's possession. That's all. Or you continue your own possession. But if you steal the ball, chances are it's going to go in the hoop at the other end. Now that's a very small example, just one thing. So let's break this down real simply. Let me check to see if I got any people calling in right now with some questions. Just hang on with me a second. There we are. Okay, one of the most common questions that's asked about Thestatvantage is, and I'm going back to this basic point here now, is how certain can I be that I can bank on this as being real? Once again, when I coached, I read books. You could go to conferences. I talked to coaches, pizza fests, all kinds of things, just to get an edge. But it was one guy's opinion against another. This is very similar to what on-base percentage is in baseball. We discovered that on base, and almost anybody who follows baseball knows, on base is a critical, absolutely critical percentage. That's how we figured out Thestatvantage. We've got it down that tightly, okay? Now, how will it help you? Well, you look at your team and you say, I only got so many minutes to practice. I don't know a single coach who does not tell me that he doesn't have enough time to practice. They all say it, and they're all correct. At the beginning of the year, maybe you start in October or early November, you have, it seems, an eternity to get ready for the first game. But man, once that first game is played, and especially once you get through the holidays, and even then with all of the holiday events that interrupt practices, you're stuck with 1 or 2 practices between games. And you're saying to yourself, what do we do? Well, you can go on what you did badly last time out. You can do that. Or might improve on something. That helps a little. But when you get Thestatvantage, you're going to see exactly where you need to go to win. Where you probably have been wasting your time and not winning. You could even take Thestatvantage.com. You could take that and you can use it in scouting other teams. You can go online and get stats from other teams, and right in your living room, right in your coach's office, you could scout that team. I did it. There were teams I couldn't get film on. I didn't know any coach who played them. Sometimes they'd be, like teams during the holiday season. I would go online, I would find their stats, and I would, using what I know in Thestatvantage, very quickly able to figure what I had to do to get ready for that team. These are very simple steps, and they make coaching so much less difficult. That's what Thestatvantage is about. You can get that kind of an edge. That is the why of Thestatvantage. Now, when you get the book, that may be all you need. The book costs less than a used basketball. You know why? Not because it's not worth a lot. That book's worth probably hundreds of dollars. But the reason it's priced as low as it is, $19.95, is because we know coaches don't have big budgets. I didn't. I started at a very small school, what we call Class D in some states. The budget was pretty much what I had in my pocket. We've made it possible for you to win for less than probably a good used basketball. Okay, that's just step one. If you want more, we have a service. We actually will look at your team's stats and give you an analysis several times during the season if need be to guide you so you're really right where you need to be to win. These are extra opportunities you find on our website, Thestatvantage.com. Okay, but once again, it's a DNA. Get in your head right now. It's not my opinion. My opinion was very different from what I found once I started doing Thestatvantage. When I started rolling through those stats and doing all the analysis, it became very clear to me that I had a lot of wrong opinions, and they were costing me. I'll give you a very quick one that some of you may be interested in. On the average now, most high school teams shoot more three-point attempt shots than they should. Because if you look at their shooting percentage, and you gave them an extra half basket for each three-point shot they made, they would not even reach the level that shoot on twos. Teams fall in love with the three because there's a guy who can bang that three every once in a while, and pretty soon everybody thinks they can take the three. And because nobody's really checking this carefully, even at the national level, they think, well, we're having a few bad games and, we'll get better. Well, if you're not getting better, you're probably be like most other teams in the country. Ones with great winning years, moderate years, and even losing years. You got most of them. You're shooting it too often. You got one good three-point shooter, that's different. Maybe two, but a lot of teams don't think that way. A lot of coaches don't think that way. So what happens is this. You come down, you take that three, it bangs off, you lose a possession. That's just one. You're going to find so many things. You're going to go to bed at night having trouble sleeping with all the things you're going to know about basketball that you didn't know, even if you coached 10, 15, 20 years. I've been involved in basketball for a long time. And I realized, even though I thought I was pretty expert, and I'd be used as an analyst on the radio, and of course I coached championship teams, and I had quite a bit of success. And I don't say that to brag, I simply say to set up one thing. I realized when I got into Thestatvantage, I could have done better. I could have been more successful. Why? Because I then would have known what really counts and what really wins. Now, take a look at it. Get on our website, Thestatvantage.com. Realize that you can take really legitimate shortcuts. And I don't really call them shortcuts because you're taking the easy way out. But you will be able to use your time more effectively. See, again, in high school basketball, time is so important. You get so little time. And you look around and say, boy, what am I going to do? I don't know how many times I've asked that question. Or maybe I have to break down my players and do individual skill things. When you have Thestatvantage, you can very quickly, with that plus your own stats, see exactly what your players have to improve on. And again, it won't be the obvious thing. See, you can watch film, but you're seeing one game when you watch film. Even on the bench, I watched all the games, of course, and filming all the games. Still, could have tightened it up if I knew exactly what lines up with winning. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do the things that win and not spend time on things that don't make much difference. Let me give you one more. On the average, you're going to discover that free throws aren't nearly as important as many of you may think they are. I know. I've left gymnasiums and driven home in the snow of the Midwest or in the warm weather in the West Coast and said to myself, jeepers, if we had just hit the front end of those free throws, we'd have won this game. Yes, it does happen. But when you look at it in total, free throwing does not correlate much with winning. The average high school team shoots at about 56%. Now you might say, well, it should be more, shouldn't it? Here's why. First of all, a free throw is only worth 1 point. A field goal is 2. Okay? So you got that right there. It's less than half as important, and you don't get that many. Right now, they call fewer and fewer fouls. In many states, it takes quite a while to get to the free throw line on the bonus. Okay? And again, with the physicality of the game, fewer calls. Therefore, 1 point per shot, not many shots. That's not the place to spend your time. Should you have guys taking free throw practice? You practice everything in high school, but it's a question of how much. What do you really spend time on? What do you spend some time on? What do you spend less time on? That's what you do. That's what Thestatvantage will do. You're going to discover there are areas of the game, and trust me, you're going to see there's areas of games you haven't spent enough time on, or areas of the game you've been emphasizing way too much. We talked about ball handling. Almost everybody will tell you, hey, it all starts, of course, with scoring. So if you score more points than the other team, you win. So obviously shooting would be the most important. No, shooting's not the most important. Shooting correlates very highly with winning. Good shooting teams win more than bad shooting teams, but not as much as good ball handling teams do. Because the good ball handling teams are the teams that take care of the ball and make sure they get a shot in each possession and force mistakes on the other end so the other team doesn't get shots per possession. And then when you see that possession differential build up, that carries them ahead of the other team. That's why so many of these really good teams will win even though they have a bad shooting night. That's just a small one. Now, that's really not enough for you. You need to get to Thestatvantage.com and see what parts of ball handling count. Where should you spend your time? And then when you look at other teams, what should you be looking for? How can you scout them? And maybe even best of all, how maybe we can help you. I can help you personally make your team stronger. Again, all affordably. None of this is expensive. We made sure it wouldn't be expensive. So we can handle a lot of folks and make a lot of basketball teams more successful and a lot of coaches a lot more happy. Thestatvantage.com. Really glad to visit with you today. This is Dr. David Clairbaugh. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.